A man with a stump grinder will charge you $250 to take out one stump, and the root system stays in your ground anyway. Renting the machine yourself runs around $260 for one day, but my people were clearing stumps out of garden ground 10,000 years before there was a machine to rent, with an axe, patience, and the dirt itself. I'll teach you the whole method today. At the end, I'll show you where the biggest stump on my place stood, because what's there now is the whole point. I'm Wes Kingfisher. I'm 64 years old. I'm of Cherokee heritage, and I was raised by my grandmother Ada in the hills of eastern Oklahoma, on the same few acres where I live now. She taught me the garden and the plants. My grandfather and uncles taught me the woods, and between them, I've taken more stumps off this place than I can count without ever renting a machine. So let's start with what that stump of yours is really costing, folks, because the machine is only the first bill. The grinder man comes out, the machine chews the stump down a few inches under your grass, and he drives away. What he does not take is the roots. Every one of them stays in your ground, along with a heap of wood chips that will rob your new grass of nitrogen the whole time they rot. The extension folks at Purdue warn about exactly that when people try to grow lawn over a ground-out stump. So you paid $250 to bury the problem where you can't see it. Then there's the jug on the hardware store shelf. The stump remover granules. I'll tell you what the label won't. Those granules are potassium nitrate, and potassium nitrate is fertilizer. The Iowa State Extension people put it in writing that most of those jugs are just fertilizer in a costume, and that plain fertilizer does the same job. You're paying extra for a picture of a dead stump on a plastic bottle. Even then, the label's own directions run 4 to 6 weeks before the wood so much as softens, and a full breakdown takes 6 months to a year, longer on oak and hickory. And the third way, the one your neighbor swears by, is a can of diesel and a match. I'm going to talk you out of that one before we're done, and not for the reason you think. Now, none of the men selling you those 3 things will say the next part out loud. That stump was always going to leave on its own. Walk into any patch of timber in this country. You won't find old stumps standing around in there like gravestones, and there's no man in the woods with a grinder. The forest takes down every stump it makes, roots and all, and turns each one into the blackest dirt on the forest floor. My grandmother had a saying about that. The woods bury their own dead. The only reason yours is still sitting in the lawn is that your lawn won't allow the burial. Once you see why, the fix is so simple it might make you a little mad. Now, everything I'm teaching you today is one page out of a book I put together called The Native American Way of the Garden. Because my first year keeping my grandmother's garden alone, I nearly killed it with everything I bought at the store. The book is how our people grew food for 10,000 years with no store to buy from, nothing out of a bag and nothing thrown away. Reading your ground before you ever dig. The 3 sisters, building black dirt out of what you already have, saving your own seed, and putting the whole garden to bed for winter. It's written plain, the way Ada gave it to me. $17 marked down from $47. The grinder man wants $250 for one stump. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So, back to that lawn of yours and the reason the stump is still in it. Wood holds together because of a natural glue called lignin. Lignin is what makes an oak board stiff and a stump stubborn. And in the whole living world, hardly anything can digest that glue except fungus. The rot that takes a fallen log apart on the forest floor is a crew of fungus threads working through the grain with the bugs and bacteria moving in behind them. Think about what that crew needs to do its work. It needs water. It needs the touch of living soil, because the soil is where the crew lives. And it needs nitrogen, real food, because wood is nearly all carbon, and no crew can build itself out of carbon alone. A log lying on the wet forest floor, pressed into leaf mold and living dirt, has all three. In a handful of years, it's gone, and there are ferns growing out of what's left. Foresters call one of those a nurse log, because tree seedlings stand up right out of its back. Now look at the stump in your lawn. It stands up in the sun and the wind, drying from the top down. It touches soil nowhere but the bottom. You mow it clean on every side, so not even a leaf gets to lie against it. You haven't left a stump out there. You've built a fence post, and a fence post is built to stand for decades. That's why the Iowa State Extension says a stump left alone in a yard can take 10 years or more to break down. Your lawn is preserving the very thing you want gone. The old ones understood this from both directions. They knew how to keep wood dry so it lasted, and they knew how to feed wood back to the ground so it disappeared. And here's the part that tickles me. A while back, the University of Illinois Extension put modern numbers on my grandmother's side of that knowledge. The chemical treatments speed a stump's decay by about 25%, opening the wood up and giving it moisture, nitrogen, and soil contact. The old way speeds it up by as much as 50. The jug loses to a bucket of manure, and it isn't close. That bucket, by the way, is how the circle out in my garden got made. We're getting there. So here's the method taught the Native American way, which means you'll get the why under every step. 3 moves. You can set all 3 in one afternoon with an axe, a shovel, 2 buckets, and a wheelbarrow of manure or compost. Move 1, take its coat off. Move 2, open it up and set the table. Move 3, tuck it in and let the ground go to work. You'll move some dirt with that shovel, but you won't dig the stump out and you won't leave a crater. Move 1, take its coat off. A tree does all its living through a thin green layer right under the bark, and a fresh stump keeps that layer working. This is where my grandfather's grandfathers killed a standing tree. With a stone axe, they'd cut a ring through the bark all the way around the trunk and let the tree die on its feet. The historians at the Forest History Society will tell you it was girdling in fire, not the plow, that first opened farm ground across the eastern half of this country. Your stump gets the same treatment, only easier. Take the axe or a flat pry bar and peel every strip of bark off that stump from the cut face on top all the way down past the dirt line. A fresh stump in early summer will peel almost like a banana. An old gray one will fight you, so work the edge under and lever it loose a strip at a time. And if your stump has already stood dry for years, give it one extra kindness at the start. Soak it good every few days for the first month, because you're waking wood that's half cured, and the crew won't touch dry wood. 2 reasons you strip the bark. The bark is the stump's raincoat, and you want it standing naked to the weather. And that green layer underneath is where the comeback starts. Elm, mulberry, black locust, and willow will throw green shoots off a stump and its roots for a year or 2, because those roots are a cellar packed with stored food. Any shoot you see, snap it off the same week it shows, and make those roots spend their savings with no way to earn more. The cover we build in Move 3 will finish that job for you by shutting off their daylight. Move 2, open it up and set the table. Wood keeps rot out, mostly by keeping water out, so every cut you make is a doorway. Take the axe and chop a checkerboard of crossing cuts over the whole top face, deep as you can drive the bit, a hand apart. If you own a drill and a long auger, bore holes instead, deep as your forearm, still a hand apart. More doorways, faster work. Then set the table. Pack fresh manure or your blackest finished compost down into every cut and hole, and slather a full layer over the top face like frosting a cake. Cow, horse, chicken, it all serves. This is the nitrogen, and the nitrogen is the part everybody skips. The crew has to build its own body to eat that wood, and it can't build out a carbon. Old-timers had one more nitrogen source that followed them around the homestead all day, free of charge, and if you're set on the fully traditional method, well, the stump is outdoors and I'm not watching. Then water. 2 full buckets, poured slow so it soaks down the cuts instead of running off. Deep cuts a hand apart, manure packed in 2 slow buckets. That's the table set. Move 3. Tuck it in. This move is the one that separates my method from every trick on the internet, and it's the simplest of the 3. If you've got timber on your place, take the shovel to the tree line and load the wheelbarrow with the top few inches of dark woods, dirt, and half-rotted leaves. That material is more than dirt. It's the crew itself, alive with the exact rot that buries logs out there, and you're carrying the workers straight to the job. A forestry professor at the University of Georgia wrote the book on speeding up stump decay, and his advice is the same as my grandmother's was. Get living soil right onto the cut wood. No timber handy. Use your best garden dirt with compost worked through it. Mound it over the whole stump, half a foot deep, and spread it out past the edges so it sits on the big roots too. Cap the mound with leaves, wood chips, or old straw to hold the damp in. That mound does 3 jobs at once. It keeps the wood dark so the stump can't push shoots. It keeps the wood damp so the crew never stops eating. And it keeps the wood pressed against living soil so the crew never leaves. From the street, it looks like a little planting mound in your lawn. Underneath, the forest floor has moved into your yard, and it is chewing. And if the stump sits out front, where the neighbors judge, don't let the look of it stop you. Ring the mound with a few field stones and set a pot of marigolds on top, and what you've got is a raised flower bed, not an eyesore. I've had folks plant squash straight into the mound its second summer and let the vines do the hiding. The stump underneath never knows the difference, and the roots of whatever you plant up top help pull the mound's water down into the wood. Now, when do you start, and how long does it take? Start now. Late summer into fall is the season the rot crew shows itself, because that's what every mushroom in your yard is, the crew coming up for air. The fall rains will do your watering for a couple of months, and the winter freeze and thaw will wedge every cut you made a little wider, the same way it cracks a bad sidewalk. After that, the upkeep is one small chore, once a season. Pull the cover back, rough up the top of the wood with the axe, pack in fresh manure, water it, and tuck it back in. That Georgia research lands on the same rhythm my grandmother kept. Stir and refeed the stump about every 3 months, 10 minutes 4 times a year. And every one of those visits tells you how the work is going, if you know what you're looking at. The first time you pull the cover back, look at the underside of the leaves. You'll likely see white threads laced across them and into the wood, fine as frost on a window glass. That is the crew, and the sight of it has never once stopped satisfying me. Mushrooms standing up out of the mound in October are the same good news wearing hats. Leave them be. By the end of the first year, the sharp edges of your checkerboard cuts go soft and rounded, and the wood turns the gray-brown of an old barn board. Somewhere in the second year, the axe sinks with half the swing it used to need, and slabs start lifting loose along the grain. Don't rush it, and don't fight it. Feed it, water it, cover it back up, and let the calendar do the heavy end of the lifting. And I'll be straight with you about the calendar, because the old ways don't need lying for. A softwood, your cottonwood, your pine, your silver maple, will go punky in a year or 2. A big oak or a hickory takes 2 to 3, sometimes 4 for a real monster. You'll know it's ready when the shovel pushes into the top like week old bread. Then you break it apart with the axe, crumble it into its own mound, rake the spot flat, and it's over. Roots and all on their way to dirt. Set that against the 10 years or more of leaving it alone, or a year of jug chemicals where you still finish the job with an axe anyway. This way the calendar runs while you do next to nothing, and the ground under that mound gets richer every single month instead of poorer. Hold on to that thought, because the circle I promised you is what rich looks like. But before we walk out there, the mistakes. I've watched every one of these cost a neighbor years. Mistake 1, keeping it proud. A stump mowed neat and standing dry in the sun is a stump you're curing, the way you'd cure a fence post. And it happens to people who start my method too. They set it all up in April. The summer turns off the rain in August. The mound dries out and the crew goes dormant. A dry stump will not rot. If your boot crunches on that mound in a drought, give it a bucket of water. That's the whole discipline. Mistake 2, the diesel can and the burn barrel. Now my people absolutely use fire for this. Girdle the trees, burn them where they stood once they died, and plant corn in the fertilized ash. That's recorded history across the eastern woodlands. But that was open field ground, a fire tended for days down to white ash, with the whole camp watching it. That's not your back lawn on a Saturday. And most towns won't allow the fire, and in a dry Oklahoma August, I wouldn't allow it on my own place either. And here's the detail almost everybody misses. The Illinois Extension points out that charred wood resists the very microbes that do the breakdown. Burn a stump halfway, which is what backyard burns do, and you fire hardened whatever is left. The diesel is worse yet. You're trying to grow dirt in that spot. Don't embalm it. Mistake 3, the salt. Rock salt will kill a stump, and it'll go right on killing whatever you try to plant in that ground for years after. Epsom salt is gentler, sure, but Epsom salt is magnesium, and the crew never asked for magnesium. It asked for nitrogen. Feed the workers what the workers eat. And from here on, anytime a jug or a sack promises you a shortcut, read the label and ask one question. Is this food for the crew? If it isn't, keep your money. Mistake 4, grinding it and calling it done. We opened on this one, so I'll close it out. The grinder takes the part of the stump you can see and leaves you the part you can't. A whole root system and a pit of chips that starve your grass while they rot on their own slow clock under your new sod. Mine is slower up top and actually finished underneath. His looks finished the day he drives off, and that root system is still down there. One more thing before we take that walk, because somebody watching has 5 stumps, not 1. This method doesn't care. The grinder math turns ugly at 5 stumps. My math is the same wheelbarrow making 5 stops, and each stop costs you a little manure and 10 minutes a season. Set the whole row up in one afternoon and let them race each other into the ground. Now come on out back, because I owe you a circle. Years ago, a spring storm took down a big red oak on the east side of my garden, and I cut the trunk up for the wood stove and left myself a stump as wide as a wash tub. I did the 3 moves on it that same fall: bark off, checkerboard cuts packed with manure from a neighbor's horse barn, a mound of tree-lined dirt and oak leaves tucked in like a bed. I fed it every season and forgot about it in between. The 3rd fall, my shovel went through the top of it like bread, and I crumbled the whole thing into its own mound and raked it flat. And I'll tell you the exact moment it paid me. I picked up a handful of that ground and put my nose in it, the way Ada taught me to judge dirt. My first year gardening alone, back when I was buying the bags, her soil had gone to where it smelled like nothing at all. That handful smelled like the floor of the woods after rain. If you've never smelled living dirt, that's the one that teaches you the difference. You can still find the spot from my porch. It's a circle of ground, a shade darker than everything around it, and by June it's the greenest ground on the place. That's where my corn goes now. Selu, my grandmother called it, corn in the middle, beans climbing the stalks, squash shading their feet, the 3 sisters planted on dirt that an oak tree spent 80 years making. I won't promise you what your ground will do, because that's between you and your dirt. I'll just tell you what mine did. So that's the whole method. But the method isn't the biggest thing I want you leaving with. Somewhere in the middle of doing this, the way you look at a stump changes. That tree spent its whole life pulling goodness up out of your ground. This is how you hand the goodness back, with nothing wasted, and let the land finish its own work. That's the Native American way, and it works the same in a town backyard as it does out here in these hills. That's how it's done in the Native American way of the garden, From reading your ground in the spring to putting the whole thing to bed in the fall with nothing in it you have to buy. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera and point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you will enjoy the video right now on screen even more, I can assure you on that. Click it right now, my friend.